King of the Pit Media. Don't get too excited, people. Don't get too excited, yeah? I found this. I've not seen this since I bought it a minute ago. So that's a little one for you grindheads out there. All right, a little bit of extreme noise terror, yeah. Little bit for you crusties out there, yeah. I'm going to talk death metal today, yeah. You know, death metal's not my cup of tea, generally speaking, but we're going to talk death metal. And you know, maybe I've put the title of this album in the actual YouTube video. So I'll just jump to it. Let's not waste your time. I'm going to talk about this record, the self-titled DEICIDE. Okay? DEICIDE by DEICIDE, featuring the song DEICIDE. Am I right or am I wrong? Alright? Hell Yeah by Hell Yeah on the album. Hell yeah. Is this a classic record? I'm proposing this question to you, my people, as fans of music of the alternate variety. Is this a great record? Is this a pristine record? Is this a 10 out of 10 record? Is this overrated? Or is this an average record? All right. I've listened to this a few times now. My initial... Well, I had a couple of DEICIDE numbers spread across their discography when I was younger, when I was downloading independent songs off of LimeWire. Oh, I love that. So I had a variation of songs, but back then, I didn't really care too much about this particular sound of music. So, you know, it came and went. But having paid attention to this album maybe a year back, having my first full listen through, I was in enjoyment at that particular time. Nothing overt technical. I mean, it's not the suffocation we heard not so long prior to listening to the DEICIDE record for the first time. And it wasn't the familiarity of getting back into Cannibal Corpse and listening to Eaten Back to Life, which I had on CD back in the day. It was a new experience, and it was one that suited me quite well. I liked the more palatable sound, not extreme for the sake of being extreme, but a bit more of a revamped, modernized approach to heavy metal. There's a lot of heavy metal. There's a lot of heavy metal on this record. Couple of blasts and fast bits here and there, yeah, no doubt. But it errs on the spirit of heavy metal just as much as thrash metal, in my personal opinion. Only difference is we've got harsher vocals, of course. We've got a particular atmosphere and emphasis on the lower register of the general sound and the instrumentation. But other than that, we're not straying too far from music I find a little more palatable, a little more toe-tapper-ish, more of a shin-shaking vibe as opposed to noise for noise sake, extremity for extremity's sake. And generally, I don't think too much to the heavy metal adjacent death metal or thrash metal for that sake. I like a little more of a punk element. And in that punk in the death metal, it derives from the thrash. So it's a bit of a odd turn of events for someone who has a taste of my own to listen to that record. I think this isn't half bad. Now, this is a controversial opinion I'm about to come up with, because as far as this band is concerned, I've come across a lot of opinions that align with the idea that Legion is their best album. So I've not gone as far as listening past Legion. I listened to the debut, I listened to Legion, and I got a bit worn out at Legion. Legion, a bit too stop and starty, a bit too time signature-y, a bit too stuttery buttery. This debut album, you can follow it. You're driving forward. You're enjoying yourself. You're catching on to the ideas. Legion was just a bit too much messing about, in my personal opinion. Give me pop music. Give me Coca-Cola death metal. I don't want nothing else. I don't want these fruity flavours. I don't want these progs. I don't want these techs. I don't want these ideas that don't serve a purpose other than having me nod my head to the rhythm in a timely fashion. So I think the debute's better. I mean, I'm yet to return to Legion. I'll do a video on that in a minute. So the tone of this record is really good. No doubt I listened to a remaster. No doubt. Whatever's streaming is streaming. No doubt it's a remaster at this point, with it being, you know, such a resellable band, such a marketable band. The label's probably like, yeah, get another flipping variation of this out. People will eat it up, you know what I mean? People buy 20 records and have them sitting there in their cabinets and pay a fucking shitload, which I think is dumb. Like for someone who's a fan of music, I think the idea of buying physicals that you're not going to resell in the future, I think, come on. Invest that into me. Send the money to me. I'll put it in a better place. So the quality of the production is really good and does a great service to this sound. It's very dry, but not in a sense that there's a grey sound. There's definitely a darker, mistier, black atmosphere to the colour of this sound, in my personal opinion. But it's not gritty, grey, DIY, budget. It's more so just get a good quality recording of the instrumentation, bang it together in the appropriate means. Don't drench it with any effects. Don't drench it with your reverbs and your echoes and all of your nonsense. Just give a nice polished product, not to a degree where it's tech heavy in the studio magic aspect, but just a nice, easily consumable extreme metal record. I think the production's really good. I don't know if the production could be better. I think maybe if this record was recorded in the 2010s with better equipment, a better engineer, and a better budget, and just a more modern sound, I think it would serve purpose. Normally, I like a more gritty, organic approach, but I think this record would sound better. Even though it sounds great now, I think it'd sound even better with a more modern production. Still sticking with the lack of bells and jingles, but, you know, giving it a bit more kick, giving it a bit more emphasis, somehow making it heavier than it already is, and it's a very heavy record. Now, the best part, or at least what this band does that I think is the selling point, the USP, I think this band and on this record, which is what we're discussing, one aspect of the sound that no other band can do, not as good or not without sounding like they've taken from this, which bands will have done this prior to them, but it doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. Is the double recorded vocals. Glenn Benton on the vocal, we've got the high shriek alongside the low growl, and it's constant. It's this constant contrast, and it sounds devilish. It sounds, both vocals are pure theatre. In the perfect sense, in the sense that the sound represents everything I think this act wanted to sound, wanted to project. It sounds alike what I expect they wanted to sound like. The high vocals, shrieking, ghoulish, ghastly, spectral voice. The lower frequency vocal, the underworld, the brutality, the power. These are some powerful vocals, and the way they're double tracked on a consistent basis, I think it's phenomenal. It could be overwhelming, but it's not. It's not. It's pristine. It's fantastic. Now, talking about the whole branding and whatnot, I've said it once and I've got to say it again. I'm not a great big fan of metal bands, if not bands in general, but it's a metal thing. I'm not big on metal acts who are just so anti-God. But when it's anti-God, we put in brackets or an asterisk at the end. Anti-Christianity. That's what we really mean. That's what we really mean. I ain't got a problem with this. But if we're going to be anti-God and be so vocal about how we're the devil and how we're demonic and how we're Lucifer and Legion and all of this sort of stuff, and especially if we're attacking Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is admired in another offshoot of Abrahamic faith, I think these bans should include that which is Abrahamic religion as a whole. Why do I say that? I say that because when you are anti-God, anti-religion, wow, religion is bad, it's horrible, but you just pick on that which doesn't fight back, you just look like a bully to me. You look scared. 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 I'm not going to talk about what would happen if you spoke about one of the other two of the trinity of Abrahamic faiths, but the fact that you just strictly speak on one, yeah, don't get me wrong, I have no doubt. I don't know about this guy's story, but with the whole cross on his head and stuff, and I think he converted and whatnot. I think that was like quite a shock of him, but it'll be trauma-induced, won't it, to some degree? So I understand it from that degree. If you're speaking in, rebellion of you growing up and you've suffered through this means and the other. But it's just a cliche with metal that we can be edgy, but we can only be edgy towards the kid on the playground who doesn't fight back. Because most of these metalheads come from a position where they have been ostracized and left out and outcasted. And it feels to me like this is them regaining their power by poking at the kid who doesn't fight back, like the bullies that bullied them. Do you see where I'm coming from? I'm not religious. I'm just saying what I see, saying what I think. So, albeit I think the music correlates with the brand, with the lyrical context, with the counterculture they're wanting to put forward, I do fear that there could be a ballsier approach to things, personally. And I'm not saying people should do that. I'm just saying what I think, Said the same thing about decapitated, said the same thing about this, that, and the third. Do you know what I mean? Now, with that being said, does this record hold up to the greats? Does it hold up to your Cannibal Corpses, your Morbid Angels, your Suffocations? That's all I'm asking. I think this is a good record. The times I've listened to it as of recent, I pulled myself together to garner these thoughts. Only a moment ago, I put the record on. It's a great song. It's a great record length. The sequencing of the songs are good, and it doesn't outstay its welcome, and it's not too short. It's arguably a perfect album length, in my personal opinion, but I didn't enjoy it to the same degree as I did the first time. Maybe it's just a state of mind, but it didn't come across as special as once was. But I really like the dual vocals. Anyway, I'm opening up for discussion, people. On that note, I'm signing out. Peace.